Indonesia for the Indonesians. In 2002, the Indonesian political elite amended the 1945 constitution, thereby turning Indonesia into a liberal country akin to the democratic system embraced by the United States and Western capitalist countries. The amended Article 6 Paragraph 1 of the 1945 Constitution, which originally stated that the president is a native Indonesian, who together with the vice president is elected by the MPR or People's Consultative Assembly, says that presidential and vice presidential candidate must be Indonesian citizens since birth, with additional clarifications provided. The political elites who drafted the 2002 amendment ignored the fact that Indonesia had never followed the principle of jus soli, which bases citizenship on one's land of birth. This amendment potentially enables unpatriotic citizens from among those with foreign parents who migrated to Indonesia in waves to become candidates. As a result, multiculturalism could occur, disrupting the process of regional cultural acculturation, a process which would normally lead to Bhinneka Tunggal Ika or unity in diversity among the indigenous people. This amendment to the 1945 Constitution, which was not preceded by securing the public's approval through a referendum, resulted in the emergence of liberal democratic euphoria, eventually leading to the passing of a new law in 2008. Law No. 40 of 2008 regarding the elimination of racial and ethnic discrimination has been misused by several members of the Indonesian Arab community to carry out racist acts directed against indigenous Indonesians. One of the more phenomenal instances was a public statement saying that studying religion under an ignorant Habib is better than studying under 70 pious Kiai. Habib is a term for people of Arabic ethnicity who claim to be of a higher rank than the Kiai, who are native religious scholars. One of their leading figures made a racist statement in public regarding the message of the late President Soekarno, the proclaimer of national independence and the great leader of the Indonesian independence movement, who said that you do not need to be an Arab to be a Muslim. This Habib spoke strongly against this statement, saying that Muslims must love the Arabs. The current president, who was directly elected by the Indonesian people, has also been insulted, being called stupid. The Minister of Religious Affairs was also insulted. He was called misguided and insolent. The presidential palace was referred to as the Devil's Palace. Such racist and provocative behavior has spread among a section of the Indonesian Arab community. They have strongly proposed that Sultan Sharif Abdul Hamid Al-Qadri II, a major general of the Dutch military and special aide to the Queen of the Netherlands, be named a national hero. Queen Wilhelmina of the Netherlands was the only ruler in the world during the post-World War II decolonization process who did not agree with Indonesian independence in 1945. Major General Sultan Sharif Abdul Hamid Al-Qadri was a high-ranking Dutch army officer who approved of the Dutch carrying out an armed aggression against Indonesia in 1947. After national independence, the indigenous people, who had been called inlander during the Dutch colonial era, and were likened to dogs, had the right to demand an Indonesia for the Indonesians. Individuals from the Indonesian Arab community have covered up that dark historical fact about Sultan Sharif Abdul Hamid Al-Qadri II, and have attempted to bolster his image, saying he designed the national Bhinneka Tunggal Ika coat of arms. Sultan Sharif Abdul Hamid Al-Qadri II did win a competition. This design was then processed by the State Coat of Arms Committee, with the final result being very different from the initial design. The State Coat of Arms Committee, which was formed on January 10, 1950, consisted of Muhammad Yamin as chairman, with Ki Hajar Dewantara, M.A. Pelaupasi, Muhammad Natsir and Nabahi Perbajaraka as its members. At that time, Sultan Sharif Abdul Hamid Al-Qadri II was a figure appointed by the Soekarno Hatta Duumvirate as a minister without portfolio in the Cabinet of the United States of Indonesia or RIS in 1949. A minister without portfolio was a minister who did not lead any ministry, and only carried out duties according to orders from the president of RIS. These duties would vary from time to time. The United States of Indonesia was the form of the state which resulted from the Round Table Conference, which was held from August 23 to November 2, 1949 at The Hague in the Netherlands. It was attended by representatives from the UN acting as a mediator, the Republic of Indonesia, the Netherlands, and the BFO or Bijeenkomst voor Federal Overleg, namely the federal system in Indonesia created by the Netherlands. The UN was the mediating party, represented by the UNCI or United Nations Commission for Indonesia, which was chaired by Critchley. The Dutch side was chaired by J.H. van Marseven. The Indonesian side was chaired by the Vice President and Proclaimer of Independence, namely Muhammad Hatta, with Muhammad Room, Supomo, J. Limena, Ali Sastromajoyo, Dewanda, Sukiman, Suyono Hadinoto, Sumitro Joyo Hadikusumo, A.K. Pringgodigdo, Muardi and T.B. Simatupang, an Indonesian soldier with the rank of colonel, as the group's members. The BFO, namely the Dutch-made federal state, was led by Sultan Sharif Abdul Hamid Al-Qadri II, a Dutch soldier with the rank of Major General. In 1949, this seventh sultan of the Pontianak Arab Sultanate, which was formed in the colonial era in 1771, had been involved in the terrorizing activities led by Westerling during the Indonesian struggle for independence from 1945 to 1950. Unlike the actions of Major General Sultan Sharif Abdul Hamid Al-Qadri II, who was pro-Dutch, during the era of struggle for independence and the era of defending Indonesia's independence, there were national heroes of Arab ethnicity, including an early fighter for independence named Hamid Al-Qadri, who was born in Pasuruan on July 10, 1912. He and his family are highly regarded in Indonesian society and politics. The similarity of the names of the prominent anti-Dutch national hero Hamid Al-Qadri and the pro-Dutch Sultan Sharif Abdul Hamid Al-Qadri II is prone to the dissemination of misinformation that misrepresents Indonesian history. Efforts towards such misdirection can be seen from the recent rise in hoaxes, in both the virtual and the real worlds, pushing for Sultan Sharif Abdul Hamid Al-Qadri II to be named a national hero. This push can be traced back to the Arab Habibs, who looked down upon the Kiai, the religious leaders of indigenous Muslims since the time of the Wali Songo in the 14th century, who are exhibiting signs of racist behavior to this day. A part of the indigenous community has begun to react to the behavior of these Habib, which they see as having been very disparaging of the dignity of the Indonesian people. If the racism of these Indonesian Arabs is taken as a social thesis, then according to Hegel's dialectical theory there will be an antithesis, taking the form of racialism among the indigenous people. This would be dangerous for national unity. Indonesian unity demands Indonesia for the Indonesians. Representing native Indonesian parents, we would like to point out that the sons and daughters of the Indonesian nation can live safely, peacefully and prosperously in the homeland. We can live together without any prejudice of ethnicity, race, class or religion, and share this life with the descendants of foreign immigrants. Native Indonesians may no longer be deemed an inlander race on a par with dogs as happened in the past, or be reviled as dogs, which is often happening today. The sons and daughters of the nation must have this awareness, so that they will not be led astray by foreign deceptions based on politics, money, or manipulation of any religion or culture. Thank you.